Welcome to the Lifelinks podcast, a Latina podcast for the modern cultura. I'm your host, Consuelo Crosby, Peruana, California native, structural engineer, mother, and your amiga for all things Latina. Here we honor the women who navigate multiple cultures, both aquí and allá, and somewhere in between, providing that safe place for you to speak your truth, celebrate la cultura, and find belonging in this comunidad. Join us every Wednesday on your favorite streaming platform to listen to your new amigas as they share their journeys of lessons learned, barriers they overcame, and the joys of living life with pure authenticity. Encuentras your voice and discover the life meant for you. Here we go again, ladies. Welcome to the Lifelinks podcast, a safe place for Latinas to speak your truth and find belonging in the comunidad, to feel that empowerment and feel seen. I'm your host, Consuelo Crosby, always just riding a high on these Pod Club episode weeks when we reflect on the previous week's guest. Because in those full episodes, we are doing the deep dive to get to know each one of our guests. But in that time, there's also these amazing gems that they're teaching us that can be a lot to absorb. So we take the time, like this week, to go back to those gems that we heard from Victoria Blumenfeld last week. Oh, my Lord, that was one to definitely hit repeat on, just to absorb everything she went through in the religious cult, to how she fought her way out, determined not to be muted, and discovered her true, authentic self through that amazing art. If you missed it, no worries. This Pod Club episode stands alone, and you'll hear clips from her episode last week to get her genuine voice in, but we also don't want you to miss her artwork, which you can find on our Instagram at Lifelinks, along with the reel of our interview, and catch the video clips on our YouTube shorts at Lifelinks. And of course, you can also learn more of Victoria on her own Instagram at Portraits by Tori. So what you may not realize is that there is so much more in our recordings than actually gets out on a finished episode. And the amazing Latinas we have in this community could easily be an entire season of episodes just for each one, given their soulful depth, their intelligence, their profound life experiences that make you just really stop and want to know more about them. And always that compassion to give back to the community. So for today, we're going to share even more of Victoria's interview that focuses on empowering other women to find their strength and self-love. That self-love that she fought for, so that you too can live your true, authentic self. So on point for this podcast, but especially profound given Victoria's fight to do whatever it takes. Victoria, victory. We are given our names for a reason, and she is such an inspiration that you have to hear these words in her own voice. So let's circle back to that eruption when Victoria stood her ground, determined to love herself for who she is, rather than want love from others who want to change her. What gave you this strength? What gave you the courage to ultimately say, no, I come first, I'm doing my dream?
I feel like it was more of a buildup. I think after years and years of being told no constantly about various things, I think it must have just been like my ancestors calling in or something and just giving me that fight feeling. It just felt like a fierceness. It just felt like something in me was wanting to crawl out for so many years that I never had that opportunity until I finally got old enough to understand myself better. And I think that's what motivated me to just be like, okay, you know what? I know that these people are coming from a good place, and I know their hearts are trying to be as positive as they can. But at the same time, I have to take things in my own hands, and I have to do things that make me feel happy. even if it disappoints them.
Wow.
You know?
That is a lot of self-awareness and maturity for still a young person. And it sounds like self-love. Like you were fighting for yourself. You loved yourself enough to fight for it and allow yourself to move forward rather than just disappear.
It was hard. It was definitely a hard journey to break out from being so conservative to that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's worth it. Sometimes it's worth the trials that come along with it and the disappointments. It's hard when you have your family and people who are very close to you not feel very positive towards you in those moments. And it can be very devastating when you lose those connections. But at the same time, it's the most rewarding experience.
So Victoria brings up those scary situations that many of us feel when we are trying to leave something that we've known, leave our comfort zone, even if it's really not comfortable for us, and move into a path that we feel is true to us. Those first scary steps to leave behind the person that others expect you to be and embrace your authentic self. Victoria shares how scary it can feel and how to slowly embrace your authentic self through those little steps that help you become comfortable and proud of yourself. She knows exactly what it feels like and is so compassionate in encouraging others to believe in their goodness and their beauty, regardless of what others are saying.
I want to show other people that it's okay and that wearing a tank top or wearing a little bit of mascara and some blush or eyeshadow even, or just even going the whole glam, like, you are still a person with a good heart. You are still a person with just pure, beautiful spirituality that you can express to people. And it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that you're not good or you're not good enough for people. So I just felt that, and I wanted to show that to myself, first of all, but then show it to others as well. And I think it's very powerful for at any point in your life. You can just find something that you always felt like, this is my passion. This is what I wanted to do. And make a little step to even do it.
Yeah.
It could be something small. I went through that phase of just like my mind telling me, no, you can't. And I remember that first drawing that I did in a class. It was a tiny little step for me to just show myself, I can do this. I can do this.
So all those little baby steps of trying on mascara and trying on a tank top and all the little things that maybe some of us don't even have to think twice we get to do. But for Victoria, no, that was like breaking all the rules and stepping outside of her comfort zone. And yet each little baby step was just leading her into building up this fierceness, this strength to step out into herself and to stand up for herself. Exactly as she's encouraging all of us to do. Because in that authentic self, that's when we attract our friends and our partners who love us for who we genuinely are. It's all you need in life, is to be loved for who you are and not what others want you to be.
If I want people to love me, I want them to love me for who I am, rather than for what they thought I needed to become to be loved. And that's how I felt a lot growing up, was that if I did A, B, C, and D, then I would get love. But if I didn't do those things, then I would be punished and I would not feel loved. And so I just got to a place where it's just like, I want to be loved for who I am. Like all of me. The silly side, the crazy side, the serious side, the caring side of me. Like all these sides that I have and everybody has.
Yeah.
You know, those are the parts that I want to feel loved for.
So through all that journey, through baby steps, building up into a fierce standing up for herself, and ultimately in this moment of celebration during the interview where she just felt so proud and so amazed that she had made it to this point to openly describe everything she had been through, which broke all the rules from her past and a lot of the rules we hear in the comunidad. Que va a decir la gente is a heavy, heavy weight on a lot of us, and to break free and speak our truth can bring so much joy and strength and leave it all behind. Shattered on the floor. That's it. It's over. And this is what it sounded like for Victoria.
Best 2 hours of my life. Seriously. Even this experience, like I said, for me, is healing. Just being able to speak so freely with you. It's already doing so many wonders for me. It's going to take me time to process this, but at the same time, I can already feel changes happening in me where it's just like my heart is like being covered, like healing. And just, wow. It's another moment where I can just say in my mind, I'm so happy that I made the choices that I made. It brought me here. Yeah. And that would have never happened if I were to have continued to stay in the box that I was in. Never seen that. I would still be, at 29 years old, I would still be in church. I would still be following the rules. I'd probably be married already and married to somebody that I didn't really like very much and just doing it out of necessity. And I would probably still be struggling or being in a job where I'm not happy and I'm just doing it to survive. Just thinking like that is just, wow. It's crazy. If I would have just stayed where I was, that would have been my future. And I'm just so glad that I found a way to, whatever strength I had inside of me, to just keep pushing, even though it was very hard. I'm so happy because look at this moment that I'm in right now. It's just, wow. Amazing. I'm just so grateful. So grateful to my ancestors, to where my roots come from. Whatever that is that's given me this strength, I'm grateful for it.
From an oppressed little girl being told to comply by a cult narrative to this strong, compassionate woman determined to live her authentic self. From being taught to do right by others to fighting to do right for herself. From being told she wasn't good enough to follow her passion of art, to finding the courage to take that first art class. From being disrupted from her cultural heritage and living as Tori, to opening her soul to her ancestors and overcoming everything that held her back. Victoria is thriving as her authentic self in victory. Can't wait to hear what steps you take to live your authentic self. I know it's scary after all this time of feeling intimidated by what others say and not knowing the reverberation and the backlash you might get, which Victoria shared with us in social media. Like, there was some backlash for her stating her truth, but you know what? That is exactly when you know you're doing the right thing, because people feel they are losing their power over you. But this awesome dose of empowerment from Victoria today is the day you try yourself out. Join us next week as we host a true change leader for women of color in the science fields. Carol Umansor brings her Salvadoran feistiness to disrupt how women are viewed in science academia and industry after entering the field herself. And what she learned drove her to focus on the emotional well-being of women of color in order to find belonging, to rupture imposter syndrome, and thrive in a new academic culture of community and inclusion. Now Carol's master's research is being implemented in the undergrad levels for both students and professors through her second NSF grant, providing the funding to get these resources into the schools. You will be pumping your fist in the air as you listen to Carol share her vision of a compassionate place for women to thrive in science and forever break down the toxic environment of the past. Until then, step into your truth, ladies. Ciao! Really appreciate the time you take to rate and review the podcast. Get the backstory and what you've heard here today and reach out on our website at lifelinks.com. That's LNXX, because it's about time, it's about us. Stay in the groove on our social media at Lifelinks and get ready to make your move, ladies. Viva!